enlighten our minds with his lecture.
Thank you. Good morning. Thank you so much for having me and for such a good introduction.
So thank you very much. Kindly please.
Thank you, ma'am. And it's good to be back. We took a session just 3 months back around this time, and it's a very good initiative. And there's a lot that is happening around the IIC initiative by the Ministry of Education. And it is good to see that SPMVV is associated with it, has organized this session workshop on intellectual property and IP management for startup. And it's just a privilege. Thank you, Madhuri ma'am, and the other co-conveners and conveners who have organized this and have invited me. And I'm very obliged and feel very great about it. I hope going forward in the next 1 hour or so, we'll have good insights. Most of the talking will be done by me, but I hope I am able to convey and share information or things that are the prospects that are available for you in the future. And as and when we end the session, I would love to listen to all the questions and answers that each one of you has. And I hope you have. Only then I would believe that I have conveyed something and have shared some good information with you. So without any further ado, let's proceed with the session. So intellectual property and IP management for startups. Now, startups is a very recent term that has come up, like maybe 10 or 15 years back. And why I said recent is because it takes time for any industry to change, any new tech terminology to come up and be introduced into the world. Startups become unicorns and their brand valuations go from millions to billions, and they are seeking investments, they are seeking partnerships, they're collaborating, they're spending so much money on promotions, etc. But what are they selling? What is brand valuation? What is the product that they're selling? Is it a service that they're providing? All those things fall under intellectual property. So before we delve into how startups function or how IP works with startups, let's try and understand what is intellectual property. So intellectual property, or as you would have studied or would have heard somewhere, is intellectual property rights. So what is intellectual property? We have tangible properties, assets like buildings, cars, land, or any gadget or product that we own. And those are properties. But there are things that are created by using a human mind. You will think of a song, or you will come up with a story, or you will think of a technology, or you will start sketching. You will click photographs. There are so many things that you are doing. In fact, even the research papers that are submitted, or the articles that you write online, all those things are created using one's intellect, the brain. And that's the power of human brain, that you can create things and not just follow rules. So intellectual property is an intangible asset in its creation. At the time of creation, it's an intangible asset. And you have used your skills, you have used your creation, and you've put in your mind to create a property, to create an asset. The common phrase to say is that something which is created using your sweat and blood is intellectual property. So yes, sweat and blood means khoon pasina, if you're familiar with that term in Hindi, it's said in different languages differently. So all those things imply and you create something. Now, how is it important for, I know I've written startup, but why is it important for any company? Or what do you do out of it? See, any intellectual property that you create has to be sold, exploited, provided you have to use it to, maybe if it's a technology, you're providing a service. It's a software, you're providing a license to that software. You're clicking a photograph, you're going to use it somewhere. You paint something, or you come up with a brand name, product name, a quirky tagline. All those things are created by your mind, but you have a right over that work, that intellectual property that you have created. And thus, any company, any business, any sole proprietorship, or even college names, services, we go to shops, we use so many apps from Facebook to Paytm to Google Pay. All those have certain intellectual property associated with them. And that's what they're providing as a service. That's what they're selling as a good. And that's why it's important to understand for any business, what intellectual property do they have, and that it is important after all. You cannot ignore it, and you cannot just ignore it and go on with your business thinking that, oh, I've created something, it's mine. We'll delve into it in detail in the coming slides. For now, what are the different types of IPs? So as I have written here, the four major ones are trademarks, copyrights, patents, and designs. Briefly, I'll tell you, I'm hoping some of you have studied it, but some of you who have not studied it can also relate to it. Trademarks, we relate to brands. We call, let's say, I call Starbucks, or I call Paytm, like I said. Apple, we know the products or the service that those brands that are provided under those brands or by those brands. Apple sells electronics. The first thing you'll think of is an iPhone or a MacBook. Starbucks, it's associated with coffee. No matter they start selling ice cream or they start selling burgers, they will always be associated with coffee for the major part of it. So that's the power of trademarks. It has taglines also. It has logos that people use, that these brands use. The app icons, the mobile applications that we use, those are also trademarks. Copyright is an artistic creation. And when I say artistic, it is lyrics, music, sound recording, film, a video that you've created. And to all the engineering students, if you are into coding or anyone who is into coding, software falls under copyright. So it's important that as a software engineer or a coder, you know that whatever I'm creating, I do have a copyright over it. Patents. Now, I'm sure many of you would be interested in it. Patents is technology innovation. It is something that you invent, something which has already been existing, but if you do it, you come up with something completely new in that same sector also would be something different. Like let's take example of the fingerprint scanner by Apple. When they removed the USB, they put in the fingerprint scanner, earphone jack, sorry, and they put in the fingerprint scanner. Then they changed that from button to haptic feedback. They came up with that technology. Then they used Face ID. They came up with that technology. They started using the notch. They shortened it. So each company, apart from Apple, also was developing on the fingerprint scanning technology, and they themselves have IPs. They might have taken licenses. We'll explain that. But technology like AI might be something very common, but how that AI is used, how do you come up with a software? which uses AI as its brain, those things fall under patents. Sorry. Designs. Designs is, we all wear clothes and we know that there are designs that are associated with each brand. There are designs that are put on products also. Let's say a lamp, and the lamp has a specific design unique to its own oneself, unique to that article, and that is protectable. There are designs on products. There are shapes that are protected. Best would be, we know how an iPhone looks like. I mean, that's the most common example we see, that a brick with two cameras in that specific form. Any other phone created with that same design, you will still think that's Apple. But then the person who owns that phone will come and correct you that it's not. So there are others, geographical indications, plant varieties, biotechnology, and those also fall under intellectual property. But when we say 4 pillars of IP, these are the 4 pillars of IP. Everything else delves from this. IP is a valuable asset. Yes, we've quite briefly established this, that IP is supposed to be, you have to consider intellectual property as your dharam, your iman. You own it. It's yours. Nobody else can take it. You have control over it. You have the right over it. Any third person who uses it does not have authority over it. So that importance and that thinking has to come from within. That, yes, because a lot of companies we see that they do not understand what proprietary right they have. How do they have a unique product, or why, I mean, it baffles me to think that why are they ignoring their right, or why are they ignoring something unique that they have? So it's a great initiative, and I'm hoping there are a lot of you who have come up with things using your intellect, using your creativity, your skills more than anything, to come up with a product or a service or an idea, concept, and you should protect it. But now we'll delve into how to build that into a business, how to use that, how to protect it. And let's move on to the next slide. And again, I'm saying, if you have any questions, please note it down. We'll take it up in the end and we'll use it, like use that time to I'll answer those. So next is IP protection strategies for startups. Now, we've established what are the IPs, and we've established how different companies use their IP. There is the importance is to the important factor is to understand what IP you have. And now we'll talk about whatever intellectual property you have. Now, here and onwards, it will be a common understanding with a few examples in, let's say, trademarks or copyrights, patents, and designs. And we will see how each one of them plays a role in a company, in each category that we are talking about, each topic that we are trying to cover. So identify IPs. Now, you've come up with a product. You might be a science student, or you might be an engineer, or anyone. And nowadays, non-engineers are also using their skills, internet information, and coming up with products. You might be an artist. You might be a fashion designer, or you might have an idea for a different product that you can come up with. You have to first identify what IP do you hold. Does it fall under trademarks? Does it fall under copyright, patents, or designs? Unless and until you do that, if you don't do that, simple, you are losing on a lot of information and possibilities of building a business around it. There's a common thing. I don't know if you've seen Shark Tank, India, US, wherever, or if you've read info news on a lot of these companies who are seeking investments. There's a one common term that they all use is that not all inventors or creators are business people. They are not businessmen. You need to become a businessman. You need to know how to sell your product. And only then can you build a business around the product or the service that you hold. On a broader aspect, if you don't know business, then you can bring somebody in place, or you can partner with someone. But if you do not understand or do not have the basic understanding, you're losing out on a lot of things. And there's so much information that's available online that you can understand. I'll be sharing some information, and I hope this will play a good role. This will give you a good understanding of what you should learn more. So first aspect, like I said, identify the IP, read about what you've created, which category of intellectual property it falls into, and name it. When I say name it, you should know what it is in and out. The next step is to secure the registration. And that's like you need to file. For trademarks, there is the trademarks registry. Patents, there is the patents office. Copyright, there is the copyright office. Designs registry. So for all of them, you need to, if you've come up with a tagline, a product name, or things like that, if you've come up with an artistic work, if you've come up with a song, probably, or they've come up with a blueprint. Even architects, the blueprints of a building or the blueprint of a land they create, those all fall under copyrights. So after you've identified the IP that you have, that you've created, it is essential, it is important, most important factor is to register it. In terms of registrations, there are different offices. All offices have different ways of checking if the work is already registered or not. Only in case of copyright office, you cannot know, or you cannot conduct a public search to see that if this work has already been registered by someone else. But in case of trademarks, patents, and designs, you can very well understand that you can conduct a public search and figure out what IP do you have and can you register it at all or not. For patents, there are websites like Google Patents that you can just search for the technology using keywords, terms, and understand and get to know that are there any other companies in the world who've applied for a patent registration of that same technology or a different functioning one. So conduct public search. It is advisable that you seek a lawyer's advice, legal advice on that. It is not hard to understand, but definitely there are things that a lawyer would be able to better advise you on and can give you a better idea of protecting it, of what all, like in case of trademarks, there are different classes. Now, is your product registrable only in one class or in a few classes? A lawyer would be able to explain it to you better. So don't worry, there are so many government provided subsidies and everything to register your IPs, and you can utilize them you can fall into the eligibility criteria, you can utilize them. There are discounted pricing. There are professional fees also determined by the government in certain cases, like in case of patents, there's a limit that they've kept. So all those essential things you should be aware of, how to get it registered. And if you have an intellectual property, this is my personal advice, always register before you take it out of your door. before you show it to the world. You might be excited to show it to your family members, but intellectual property is so sensitive that even if I show it to my family members, that I've created this work, I've created this sound, and if they also share it with someone else, there's a high possibility that it might be leaked, that I might lose the registration or the eligibility criteria for the registration also. Like in case of designs, if you've come up with, let's say, designs of a suit, probably of a gentleman's suit or a lady's suit, anything, then if you show it to the world before you got a registration over it, you can't register it under Designs Act. Before you show it to the world, before you launch the product, it's available on e-commerce or it's available through retail shops, get it registered before a third person even sees it. Your team can see it, but no one else should know about it. So I would like, there are different prospects, there are different eligibility criteria, processes, fees, etc. You can understand them depending on the IP that you hold. Now, when I touched upon the topic that I want to show it to someone, a family member, or any third person, maybe a friend or a prospective investor, an NDA, non-disclosure agreement, or a confidentiality agreement becomes the most important aspect. It is the first step beyond the registration process. When you are introducing the product to the world, to any third person, this is the stepping stone. Always get an NDA signed, confidentiality agreements, which will specify that I'm showing this, let's say I'm showing, I composed a song, I have written the lyrics, I mastered it, I have it ready. And Madhuri ma'am is a music producer. She's a music label. Now, if I send her the song without an NDA, it is possible that Madhuri ma'am might just go and use that song. No offense, ma'am. I know here it does not work like that, but still, that it's a wide world. We have good, bad, ugly outside. So it's important that if I get an NDA signed with Madhuri ma'am, where it's mentioned, where it's specified that I'm sending, or Madhuri ma'am is listening to this XYZ song, and she is not supposed to reveal this information to anyone, reveal the contents of the song, the composition, the intellectual property of the song with anyone, and she's bound by that contract. She's bound by that agreement that is enforceable. There might be consideration involved, there might not be a consideration involved, but that's a declaration and an undertaking that Madhuri ma'am is giving to me, the assurance that whatever I'm showing it to her, whatever she's listening, whatever information with respect to the process that I used, or the people I involved with, who all are involved in the project, or did I use any other person's work or not? Do I have a license or not? All those information Madhuri ma'am will keep confidential, and she cannot disclose it to anyone else. And if she breaches that agreement, there are repercussions. The court also holds it against the person who has violated such an agreement. So an NDA is the first step. So I no matter whom you're sharing the work with, always get an NDA signed. I mean, I might trust my parents or my brother, but not beyond that. So it's one essential thing that you need to cover in your basics. Now, intellectual property. I hope I'm audible, ma'am. I hope the
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, ma'am. So Now, intellectual property, although the registrations that you are granted are territorial in nature. When I say territorial, it means if I have registered the intellectual property in India, then the registration is granted for India only and not beyond the territories, the boundaries of India. So it becomes important that if I'm going to sell a product or provide a service outside India, then I need to get it registered in the specific country where I'm providing the goods or I'm providing the service also. So IP is territorial in nature, and in those countries also it will be territorial in nature. So as many countries you're providing that product in, you need to get it registered in that. And this is also with respect to the copyrights that take place, or designs also for that matter. But you need to be aware of how the provisions of each countries work, because just because you got a registration in India and you've published it online after you've granted registration, in case, let's say, a fashion design, a design of a lehenga or design of a clock or a lamp that you've created. So beyond that, if you are selling that product in another country, do you need a specific registration in that country? Does it have to be published before your registration? Like, can you launch it without obtaining a registration is another important factor that you have to consider. So first step, yes, secure a registration in your domestic country. Draft an agreement, you might be sharing it with other people. But if you're also selling the product or you intend to sell it beyond the boundaries of India, definitely get it registered in those countries also. Now, registrations, whether domestic or international, of course, there's money involved, there's expenses involved. Sometimes there are IP lawyers who would help you out with that. There are subsidiaries, there are provisions, etc. But always keep a check on what is your revenue, how much more capital do you have, and how much can you bear. But if you just bluntly ask me, are registrations important? The answer is yes, they are important. Don't even think twice if you have all the amenities to get a IP, intellectual property, registered. Okay. Yeah. Ma'am, may I proceed? I hope all good.
Yes, sir. You can.
Okay. This slide talks about how to protect before you build a business around it. And now we are talking about how to build the business. There are certain areas which we'll cover when you create an IP during the course of business also. Okay. And one more thing that we'll cover is how you can pitch the work to the business. Whether you don't want to set up a business at all, or an enterprise or a company, how do you do that? We'll cover that also in this. So first topic is licensing and technology transfer opportunities. Licensing is a basic right that each intellectual property owner, and when I say owner has, and when I say the term owner, it would be defined in certain manner. in all different acts. The law recognizes owner differently in different scenarios. Like somebody would be in trademarks, the author is in copyrights, patents, it's the inventor, design, it's the creator. So, but then who owns the work inherently when it's created is something that is defined and determined in each act separately. Licensing is a native, it's an inherent right. You have it from the beginning. And I'll give you examples before I delve into how you can develop on it. Starbucks. Starbucks is a US-based company. It's an American company, a coffee chain. In India, it is distributed and it is part of Tata Enterprise. It is associated with Tata. So Tata entered into a licensing agreement, into a distribution agreement or a joint venture with Starbucks, and Tata will open Starbucks coffee shops at different places across India. The distribution is in the hands of Tata. The revenue chain, supply chain, everything for the products that are used, for the raw materials are used, are all under the hood of Tata in India. Starbucks has licensed Tata to use their trademarks, that Tata can use the trademark, has a license to use the trademark Starbucks in India. It has the license to use the recipe to keep things better, to make things better in India, like keep the same standards of the coffee, same taste. If they introduced anything in America, they can introduce that in India also. The taste and the recipe has the full control from America to India is given to Tata. And similarly, in terms of patents, like I think when Apple came up with the Face ID, they licensed the technology that was used to create that, the technology behind a Face ID detection. And other mobile companies, they obtained a license from Apple and incorporated that in their phones. So there are various software, various machines that are used by someone else, but a license is given authorizing any third person, the licensee, to use that technology, that artistic work. Like in case of the music example that I gave right now, between me and Madhuri ma'am. If Madhuri ma'am is a music label and I want to exploit my song, I can give a license to Madhuri ma'am and say that, okay, you release it in your music label, whatever royalties come, we'll divide that. I might not even have to set up a business around it. This is what I was talking about. Licensing can work both ways. Either you have a business and you have come up with a product, you can license it to other people to probably maybe a generous cause. If it's a air purifier doing something better that you have a patent over, and you are just a kind person, you're just a good person who's assigned or who's licensed the right to use that air purifiers technology across the world. Anyone can use it. It's for the betterment of the people. That works as a license. You might not receive royalties in return, or you have a royalties involved in them. And we'll get to the commercialization of these aspects. And there's a very good example I came across last year, that the seat belt, the patent over a seat belt, how a seat belt functions, was created by Volvo's owner, founder. And sorry, my camera does this. I still don't know how to fix this. So Volvo's owner created that patent over the this thing, the seat belt, and he did not claim a patent over it. He did not get it registered. He did not get it registered anywhere in the country. He did not claim a patent over it. He just shared it with the world because it was for safety of the people, whosoever is driving a car. So that was some good deed that they did. But now it's a power struggle. There's EV coming. There are ways those engines are created. There are patents being filed left, right, and center. There are designs that are being filed left, right, and center by automobile companies, claiming rights over their engine, over design of the engine, over the blueprints of the engine, how it functions. And if any other company wants to use that technology, they will have to obtain a license. Same, we've explained trademarks, we've explained copyrights, designs, patents. The licensing works in the same manner in all of them. Of course, there are, on the face of it, it works same way. There are things that are differently negotiated in all those cases, and thus you need to be aware of that. Again, a lawyer would be better to help you out with it, but still there is a lot of information that is available online. But definitely look at good resources. You can speak to your professors also about licensing. You can speak to your contracts law professor who can help you or guide you how to negotiate such contracts, etc. But of course, maintain the confidentiality. That's a good learning process for you all. Technology transfer opportunities is something that if you have created a product, if you have come up with a technology, a work under the copyright or a work under designs or a brand, you might not have the business acumen. I mean, there are people among us who understand that, okay, I can't build a business or I don't want to build a business. If you don't have that inclination to build a business around it, or you do not, you want to build a business, but you do not have the set of skills, or it will take a long time to build on those skills, maybe just transfer that IP. Transfer the intellectual property to another company who has the infrastructure, who has the skills, who has the staff, people as a resource, the raw materials, connections, distributions, supply chain management. All those things are already set for a big company. So you can license or you can assign the intellectual property to that company. Let them take care of it. You will get royalties or the license fee. We'll explain that. There are commonly I've come across cases where scenarios where parents, they've come up with new ways of creating toy. They've come up with toys for their kids, newly aged parents. So somebody created a book which has stories, and you can choose voices, in what voice the story will be read to them. So we know there is Audible, the Amazon audio podcast and audio streaming platform, but there's a new technology that they've come up with, these kids, and I think Amazon has acquired them. I'm forgetting the name of the company. You open the book, you start reading, and there is a voice that will start reading, and there will be sound effects around that, around the story that they are reading. So the parents might not have the necessary technology, the money, or they do not have the infrastructure to build a business around it. They can easily sell it to Hamleys, any toy making company, Mattel, or Amazon for that matter, because it's a product company along with being a service company. what do they get in return is, again, royalties, license, and they might they might go back to their day jobs, or you can start working on another product or come up with something new. So licensing, technology, those are probably how the best these commercialization of intellectual property works. And there might be examples that you would think of. We spoke about Starbucks or McDonald's. Imagine there are government regulations in a company, in a country, and it would be difficult for Starbucks to come into India and set up their own business, set up their own company, and start functioning from here. What works best is if they can partner with somebody. So that's where we come into the next part, wherein we partner with a brand, we collaborate, or we create a joint venture with another entity to exploit the IP, to exploit the business and monetize it. I would highly recommend you all to watch the film Founder, which is based on McDonald's and how it was created back in the 20th century, like I'm forgetting 80s, I think 80s or 90s, and how the person worked it out, how from one store they went into a global chain. So watch that movie and you'll understand how collaborations can work. You might not be a business person, but you partner with another company and you do much better. Very recently, just 2 days back, Warner Music Group partnered with TikTok internationally, of course, because TikTok is banned in India. And Warner Music Group said that we will license this, we will license our songs to TikTok, and the artists will benefit out of it. The artists who've already licensed their work on Warner Music, which is a music label, sorry, for the people who are not aware of it. And TikTok will promote those songs on their platform. They have certain set of things that they will do with those songs, and the artists will earn a lot of recognition and money also at the same time. So it's going to work, it's going to be beneficial for all of them. In terms of technology, now think that India has a lot of manpower, right? We are, I think I'm correct to say that we are the largest most populated country in the world. So we have the biggest resource we have is people. For a country like Apple, for a company like Apple, India is a very lucrative business country, and Apple can license or can set up its manufacturing in India, can partner with a company in India to manufacture products. And very recently, it collaborated and partnered with Tata to create, I think, iPhones for the first time with an Indian company. And Tata is going to set up a factory. So while monetization means how you're using your patents or technology or your intellectual property, you as a business, you need to understand how I can reduce my cost, or how I can be efficient also, and how I can do things better. Because if I start focusing on, okay, I'm getting this product manufactured by a company in China, but it's taking a long time, but I'm saving money. Can I go to another company, spend a bit more, but I'm early to the market? I can start selling sooner. So it is an equation of time and money. And coming back to collaborations or partnerships with any other entity, let's say you came up with a eyewear. You come up with a new brand name for that eyewear. You can go and license it, or you can partner with Lenskart. I mean, it's a unicorn today. It's one of the well-known companies in optical industry. and you can partner with them. You can tell them, okay, here, Piyush Bansal, here I have this product, please see this. Of course, Piyush Bansal or his PA, but you can give your product a chance to be used by Lenskart, and accordingly you can partner with them, and they will always credit you for that partnership. So those are negotiating things. Moving on, IP valuation. Now, it is important to, like, I mean, you get registrations, you do everything, but you have to always understand what is the prospect, what is the value of my intellectual property, how far, I mean, it's very, in terms of copyright, if I have created a work and I'm not a known artist or anything, then how many people are actually going to see this? If you come up with a software, if you've coded a software, and but only a few people use it, the value might be very less. But suddenly some company like Microsoft sees a value in that, and they will come and take that product away from you. They will pay you money, they will pay you royalties, or they will purchase your business altogether. But what do you sell the product or the business for? How much money? How much is it valued? So you need to always understand there are different parameters to evaluate a company's IP, intellectual properties. And in terms of trademarks, the brand valuation, like we saw Paytm, Paytm getting into a, what do you say, IPO of 18,300 crores. So was it valued at that much? Was Paytm a company? Is Paytm a company that can be valued at 18,000? But it did not get that much. It could not raise that much amount through the initial public offering. So similarly, in terms of patents, if you come up with a technology or you invented something, anything, you need to understand how it is going to work in the market. Does the world need it at all? What are the competitors doing? How much is the competitor's product selling for? And mine, if yours is better than the competitor's product, then you might increase the cost of your license or the cost of the product. So, I mean, IP valuation, there are different parameters depending on the IP that you're selling. But in the end, like if I say I've designed a lehenga, and like we see Sabyasachi, Manish Malhotra, just yesterday he had a bridal couture. So they all have registrations over the design of that bridal wear that they created, of the groom wear that they created. How much does it sell for? Could be lakhs, could be 6 figures. In certain cases, it's 7 figures also, if you talk about Mukesh Ambani's daughter's wedding. But the important factor is, if it has the brand name of Manish Malhotra, then it's going to sell for a hell lot of money. I'm sorry for my language. It's going to sell for a lot of money than if I sell it, who has no name in the fashion industry. So I might place myself in the industry with my competitors. I would be saying that I'm competing with this company, and thus my products are priced at 10,000 or 15,000. Or I can just set up a shop and I can compete with the likes of Westside or Peter England and start selling shirts at 2,000. I know shirts is not the best example, but when you think of designs, shirts are something you would put designs over. So that being said, IP valuation does play a big role. And if you cannot understand if you cannot evaluate the IP on your own, there are lawyers, there are agencies who help you with it. You need finance people, who will understand the goodwill of the product, who will understand the prospects of the product. Companies have CEOs who are business people, and then they have COOs, the chief operating officer or chief technology officer. The technology officer might be looking at the technology, the product that they're selling, but he might have he might not have the majority of the say in the business decisions of the company, because he's not a businessman. He's not a business person. He does not have the skills or the knowledge to think about it. So that's why you need to partner with someone else who understands this, who understands the evaluation, the projected revenue of the products, and projected value, how much you should sell this license for, how much you should sell the product for, all those things. So you have seniors, you have finance people around you, speak to them, MBAs, all those people. And Bangalore is the hub, Hyderabad is becoming the hub, but knowledge is everywhere. So you will find somebody sitting right next to you who would understand this better than you can. And never shy away from asking. But of course, keep in mind that anyone can sell the product that you have created. And at this point, I would also tell you, so that you don't feel bored by me and can find something exciting to learn through, is Social Network. Watch the movie, you will understand what Mark Zuckerberg did and how Facebook was created. So it's a very beautifully made movie. It covers a lot of good points. It explains business. It explains how a social media app was introduced, and which is probably on all of our phones today. So there are plenty of movies, Spotify or Facebook or Imitation Game, on what a product can do, how a product is sold, and you can watch them. It's entertainment, but at the same time, at least it will give you an understanding of how to do business. Recently, the movie Air launched, which talks about the Air Jordan sneakers, which was a deal between Nike and Michael Jordan, which was one of a kind deal wherein Nike introduced a new shoe, a new design for that shoe, a new, I think there's a patent also, I might be wrong, but it was a completely new line of product that they launched, and they're still selling that one shoe along with other designs of Air Jordan. But what happened in that deal, how they partnered, everything you need to understand. And endorsement agreements also fall under IP, because if I am a musician and I partner with a big singer and I ask him or her to sing my song, I'm partnering with somebody. I'm leveraging their identity, their celebrity status to sing my song, and I get the money also. I might have to spend some money, but the prospects of earning by using or partnering with a famous singer are very high. People will listen, okay, if I partner with Sid Sriram, or I partner with Vishal Dadlani or Shreya Ghoshal, the prospects of people listening to their songs is higher than they listening to my voice. So, I mean, that's something that can be looked at, people who are into the creative industry. And that's why leveraging IP for investments and competitive advantage. You can understand who are the investors who are investing in this kind of technology or this kind of business. There are investments. I mean, you have the Silicon Valley, you have Sequoia Capital, sorry, and you have Tiger Capital. These are companies which have huge amount of money from big millionaires or billionaires. And they always look at companies from the technology sector, or they'll think that, okay, this year we want to spend $100 million in a food company or AI company, things like that. So while you are creating or you're working on your IP, always be aware of how things are happening. I'm so sorry, this is very creepy, this camera gimmick. Um, always understand what's happening around the IP that you're creating. Who are the people who are interested in it? What are the companies, other companies doing? Who are your competitors? Who can you partner with? Whom should you bring on board? All this might sound overwhelming, but if you really, really want to build a business around your invention, your intellectual property, you have to do this homework. You should be aware of it because then you will have control over what you are creating. Because if any other person, if I partner with you today in, let's say, take that example of the song also. Let's bring Madhuri ma'am again. Madhuri ma'am listens to my song and she'll start giving her inputs. Then suddenly, because I didn't have that creativity in me, I could only do so much. Madhuri ma'am is an experienced person in the music industry. She will start giving her inputs and suddenly it's her song. So I lose all the ownership. She can come ahead and own the song. She can say that, oh, you didn't do anything. I was the one who made substantial changes in the song and thus this is my work. What will I do? And I didn't even sign an agreement. So while you do anything, NDAs, non-disclosure agreements, your partnership agreements, your licensing agreements, your investment agreements, all these are supposed to be entered as and when those situations arise. And I mean, you'll find plenty of help from lawyers on that. Law students, you can talk to your friends, or you can connect with people from other courses in your college, and you can start helping them out because you have the backing for law, they have the backing for technology or products, and you can all collaborate together. I mean, you can start a company inside the campus itself, or I mean, outside the campus, not owned by the college, howsoever it may be. But ultimately, you need to know how you can help someone else, how you can assist or provide service to someone else as a lawyer, and as well as how you can, as a person who is creating something, how you should seek help. You should know what you need. And leveraging IP for investments, again, we see so many companies raising capital, raising funds after funds, investments. Every 3 months, you'll be listening to some company raising $10 billion, $2 million. They're using that IP, using the brand valuation and all those information to bring in more funds, to bring in revenue from the people, to attract people, and saying that we have this unique product, you should use ours or you should not use theirs, things like that. So that's mostly about IP commercialization and monetization, and that's how I would like to end. I hope I have been able to give this information, whatever I could think of. There might be questions that you all would have. I hope you have. Then only I'll feel good that there's something I've done good. And I'd like to thank again Department of Law of SPMVV. And thank you for having me here. Thank you for inviting me. Thank you, Madhuri ma'am. Thank you, Sita Kumari ma'am. Thank you, Kanipaka ma'am. Thank you, Indra ma'am, for being cordial and giving me this opportunity and making me a part of an initiative such as IIC. And it's good to be back. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. It's a wonderful presentation, and we are very happy, especially on the particular topic, which is very, very relevant nowadays, and everybody should know what is the priority if you have any the product or whatever product you have, how you can protect yourself. What
Correct.
kind of legal right it has to be taken.
Correct.
So in case when you are making anything, if you are not providing licensing or any kind of thing which is not being protected in the way of legal way or whatever we can say, then there will not be any kind of enthusiastic thoughts will not be like chalo theek hai, ho jayega. So like that you explained in such a way that yes, definitely we can have a great thoughts with the licensing in the way of IP management level. So
Correct.
once I thank you very much, Sivaraj sir, because last time also you had just gave your, what you can say, the valuable thoughts to all our students as well as to the department and to the products.
Thank
So
you.
once again, thank you very much. We hope we'll have series also with your friends or whenever we can have it. So thank you on behalf of all of us and also on behalf of IAC, Professor Jyoti Madam and all other staff what we have. Now I request Harshita, one of our student, to just propose formal vote of thanks to you.
Thank you, Manindra. I'm Amna Harshita, student of second year, Department of Law, SPMVV. It has been such an honor to be a part of this informative workshop on intellectual property rights and IP management for startup. I stand here today as a proud and grateful student to express my heartfelt thanks to all those who have made this workshop a grand success. I would like to start by thanking our beloved professors of Department of Law who have always been supportive of our initiatives and encouraged us to strive for excellence. Our professors have always been our guiding lights through imparting knowledge and nurturing our hidden talents. Their unwavering support has been instrumental in our growth and development. Department of Law specially thank Dean of Social Sciences, Professor Anuradha Ma'am, Professor Jyoti Ma'am, Vice President of IIC, and Dr. Sujata Ma'am, Convener of IIC, and all other professors of SPMVV. I would like to extend my heartfelt gratitude to our esteemed guests, resource person, Mr. K.P. Sivaramakrishnan, sir, the founder of Sivaramakrishnan Law Offices, Noida, Uttar Pradesh. Sir, thank you for your time. We've got to learn and engage with you regarding additional and background information of IPR. Your presence and expertise regarding IPR has made this workshop even more special, sir. We would love to interact with you more in future regarding IPR, sir. Finally, I would like to thank all the scholars and each and every student of Department of Law for your support and participation in making this workshop a huge success. Last but not least, special thanks to our technical team, Sham sir, Nagarjuna sir, and our non-teaching staff, Shadi ma'am and Bhagya aunty. Hope you all have a nice day. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you Sivaraj once again.
That's fine.
Thank you very much for your team. I think your interns also there in this. Your interns are presented in this meeting.
Yes, I have been told. I haven't checked them. I'm not snooping and checking whether they are here. I can see, yes, they are here. Yes.
I thank them also for just taking up. Definitely will have a one more session also. So thank you very much.
Yes, ma'am. I mean, if there are any questions,
Yes, any queries, any students they want to have? Or from participants?
I hope I wasn't boring.
Oh, not at all. Just a minute, sir. I'm sorry, just I forgot to ask queries before vote of thanks.
My bad also, ma'am. Not.
Yeah. Sir, are there any landmark disputes regarding IPR, sir? In Indian context,
Could you, sorry, could you repeat?
are there any landmark intellectual property disputes in Indian context or any other countries?
Yes, definitely. I mean, intellectual property is like, it's a crazy and it's a creative industry to work in. Whether you're working as an in-house counsel or as well as even if you're working as a lawyer, as a counsel, you can look at when it comes to designs, you can read the Crocs versus Liberty matter, which talks about the Crocs slippers that we have and which have holes. So there's an identity attached to it. So that talks about the design aspects and how Crocs lost the designs. I might be, you'll have to check the facts again. Then you have trademarks. One judgment that I love by Supreme Court is the Toyota versus Prius Industries. So in that, Toyota had launched their car by the name of Prius, Prius, and they lost the battle. It went up till Supreme Court, and they lost the battle because there was already a company by the name Prius Industries, which was functioning since 2001 in India. And Toyota launched the product, the car Prius in 2006 or 7. And it turned out that in India, Toyota Prius was not a mark that anyone knew, a car that anyone knew. So they ended up losing the battle. So you can read Toyota versus Prius. I said Crocs versus Liberty. Patents, there are plenty of them ongoing also right now. Now, of course, there's definitely the evergreening one. Most of the patent matters are majorly done by pharmaceutical companies because they come up with a molecule, they come up with a chemical, what do you say? They come up with a medicine and it has its own chemical properties, drugs that they create. And there are other companies which create similar drugs. But how do you protect your patent? Because it only exists for 15 years. And after that, it's in public domain. You cannot claim anything. So there is this Novartis judgment wherein they talk about evergreening. And you'll find that topic in a lot of judgments where they talk about evergreening of patents. So that's definitely an important thing and important case. And in terms of copyright, currently what's been going on is the functioning of copyright societies, the cases on registration of copyright societies. So you can read case laws of Justice Pratibha Singh, wherein she is dealing with PPL, which is a alleged copyright society, which was not granted registration as a copyright society, but has licenses, has the right to license songs of music labels. So if you read the copyright societies, how copyright works, how copyright licenses work, and then you go into the case, you'll understand that a lot better. So those are definitely some of the major cases that I always go back to or remember the concepts of trademarks or copyrights. Patents also, patents, I'm myself not a patent attorney, but definitely there are case laws you can find out on plant varieties also, on discussing patents in engines. There's a TVS versus Bajaj case from 7-8 years back. That's a big one. That's a precedent to follow. So, yeah.
Thank you, sir. So I have another question, sir.
Thank you. Whosoever to read case laws and staying up to date on the current case laws, there are so many, like Bar and Bench is one good platform, although it's paid. So you can look at Spicy IP. You check out Spicy IP blog. They keep on updating with recent case laws and judgments. There is one more called IPRment law, IPRment law, which talks about copyrights, trademarks, designs, etc. all. So that's also a good platform to read blogs, read on concepts and recent judgments also. So yeah.
For example, if I've built an gaming app, sir.
Pardon?
A gaming app, any sort of gaming app, sir.
Gaming app.
Gaming apps. You want examples or what are you exactly asking?
I have built a gaming app, sir. I have.
Okay, you have built a gaming app. Oh, that's amazing. That's congratulations, sir. So yeah, what do you want to understand? How to go about it? What?
Before getting it released or registered, sir, some other very big company has launched the same app with a different name, sir.
Oh, so this is real you're talking about. This has happened, right? So if you have a gaming app and you have created it, there, see, gaming app would have primarily a copyright first before anything, because there's coding involved in it. So if you can prove somehow that you have created a gaming app and as on this specific date prior to the date on which the other company has created, you can very well send a notice, get it registered, at least get it registered as a copyright. um, if you have not published, I mean, if it's not available anywhere, immediately file a copyright application as a literary work with the software coding. The characters that you've created, you can file copyright application for the for the artistic work of the characters. You can trademark the name also. So if you want to go against them, collect all the documents, collect all the information, how you can prove that you created it, when did you create it, and how do you, was this app that you created, was it accessible to the company that has launched it? Because if you can show that accessibility, then the company has actually infringed your copyright in that app. But also try to understand if, try to determine whether there is substantial reproduction of your work. I mean, there are games like, the best examples I can give is PUBG versus Call of Duty. Okay. Both are warfare games, both have same format, everything, but both might have different designs, different gameplay, but doing the same thing. It's a battle royale. There are 50 to 100 people in that area. The area uh, gets shorter and shorter, smaller and smaller. And at the same time, the characters, the powers that they have, they are all different in both the games. So try to determine what are the similarities, whether you have a copyright in the work also or not, whether it's registrable as a copyright or not, and then think about filing a suit or sending a legal notice to the other company. I hope that was like I answered your query.
Yes. Absolutely, sir. Thank you. Thank you very much, sir. And we have some other sessions with your
Sure,
time.
ma'am. Sure, ma'am. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your time. And
Scholars also. You can find everybody is joined.
somebody asked, is it anyway useful to advocates? On the chat, somebody has asked a question. I think I didn't understand, Gausia, if I'm pronouncing the name correctly. If you can,
That is there, this IP is going to work for advocates or not?
is IP anyway useful for advocates?
Yes.
As an advocate, or like, what do you think, ma'am? What is the
As an advocate, IP can be connected to the advocates? That's what you want to ask.
Yes, I mean, you see my logo there. I have a right over it. I've been using it for the past 1.5 years. And I do have a right over it because I created that logo. So if I can just, I don't know if I can zoom in or not. Any logo that you see on the screen that I have shared, so those are IPs. And if I am a lawyer, I come up with a product, or if I'm a musician also. So I have a mind of my own. And it's funny that we say that a contract that an advocate drafts, they have a copyright over that also. So if any time there is a dispute between two contracts being similar, you'll have to see which one came first. which was the contract the lawyer also entered or drafted first. If I'm on the right track of answering, ma'am, am I hope. Okay. And yes, as advocates also, I mean, it's a business opportunity. I'll I manage artists. For some artists, because I'm a musician myself, I am invested through my creative skills also. So I go for recording sessions for my client with my clients. I sit there, I give my inputs. I actually wrote 4 lines for a song recently in a recording studio. So I could ask the person that give me a copyright. I wrote 4 lines of the lyrics, but I know either I can lose the song or I can lose a client. I mean, that's the funny part of it. But on a serious note, yes, as lawyers, you can partner. Uh, you do have a lot of understanding of the business works, how companies work, how law works, how the country is coming up with new policies. So if you can convert that knowledge and partner with a person who is creating something, then why not? Um, why not become a businessman also? I mean, of course, within the ambit of uh, rules for advocates, the Bar Council rules, All India Bar rules, but there's a lot of prospects, and you shouldn't shy away from taking such. Yes.